The marketplace on Zenith Station buzzed with activity like it did every day. Hundreds of alien species moved through the wide corridors, buying and selling goods from across the galaxy. The air smelled like a mix of strange spices and recycled oxygen. Holographic signs flickered in dozens of languages, advertising everything from rare metals to exotic foods. 8-year-old Hannah skipped between the stalls, her dark hair bouncing with each step. She loved the marketplace. Every corner held something new and wonderful. Today she wore her favorite blue jacket, the one with Earth's symbol on the sleeve. Her parents ran a repair shop 2 levels down, fixing ships and machinery for anyone who needed help. Hannah stopped at a stall selling crystallized fruits. The vendor, a friendly blob-like alien named Prux, always saved the sweetest ones for her. She reached up on her toes to see the display better, her small hand gripping the edge of the counter. "Back again, little human?" Prux gurgled happily, his body shifting colors from blue to purple. "Do you have any red ones today?" Hannah asked, her eyes wide with hope. Prux was reaching for a container when someone shoved past Hannah roughly. She stumbled backward, trying to catch her balance. Her shoulder bumped into something hard and chitinous. She looked up to see a tall insectoid alien towering over her. His exoskeleton was deep purple, almost black, and decorated with military symbols she didn't recognize. "Sorry, sir," Hannah said quickly, stepping back. Her parents had taught her to always be polite to everyone on the station. The alien's compound eyes focused on her with what looked like disgust. His mandibles clicked together sharply. "You dare touch me, Deathworlder filth?" Hannah's heart began to race. She didn't understand why he was so angry. "I didn't mean to." "I said sorry. Your kind should not be allowed in civilized space," the alien hissed. His voice sounded like rocks scraping together. Other shoppers were starting to notice the commotion. Some moved away quickly, others stopped to watch. Commander Thelvix of the Krill Imperium had been having a bad day. His supply requests had been denied. His subordinates were incompetent. And now this primitive creature from a barbaric world had dared to make physical contact with him. In Krill culture, touch from an inferior species was the highest insult. Hannah tried to back away further. "I'll go now." "I'm sorry." "You will learn respect," Thelvix said coldly. What happened next took only seconds, but those seconds would change everything. Thelvix's sharp, blade-like appendage swung out fast. It caught Hannah across the left side of her face with terrible force. The sound of breaking bone echoed through the marketplace. Hannah's small body flew backward, hitting the ground hard. Blood pooled beneath her head. She didn't move. The marketplace fell completely silent. Prux made a sound of horror. Several aliens gasped, but no one moved to help. No one wanted to get involved with a Krill military officer. Thelvix looked down at the unconscious child with satisfaction. "Let that be a lesson," he said to no one in particular. He adjusted his uniform and began to walk away as if nothing had happened. Then he heard a sound that made his antennae twitch. It was low at first, building slowly. A growl. Not from any animal, but from a human throat. It was a sound that came from deep in humanity's evolutionary past, from the time when early humans faced predators in the dark. Minho had been 3 stalls away when he heard his daughter say sorry. He'd been carrying a box of spare parts, heading home after finishing a job. He turned just in time to see the Krill officer strike his little girl. Just in time to see Hannah fall. Just in time to see her blood on the station floor. The box fell from his hands. Parts scattered everywhere. Something inside Minho broke and then transformed into something ancient and terrible. His face went completely blank. His pupils dilated. Every muscle in his body tensed. He walked forward with slow, deliberate steps. The aliens around him suddenly felt afraid, though they couldn't explain why. This human didn't look angry in the way they understood anger. He looked like death walking. "You hurt my daughter," Minho said quietly. His voice was so calm it was terrifying. Thelvix turned, annoyed. The child needed discipline. "Be grateful I didn't." He never finished the sentence. Minho moved faster than any of the watching aliens thought possible. His fist connected with Thelvix's thorax with a crack. The Krill commander stumbled backward, shocked. No one had dared strike him in decades. Station security arrived within seconds, pulling Minho back before he could hit the officer again. 4 guards struggled to hold the human. Minho didn't fight them. He'd already done what he needed to do. He'd answered the violence. But his eyes never left the Krill officer, and what the aliens saw in those eyes made them deeply uncomfortable. More humans arrived. Sumin, Hana's mother, pushed through the crowd and dropped to her knees beside her daughter. She was a medical technician, and her hands moved quickly, checking for breathing and pulse. Tears ran down her face, but her movements stayed professional and steady. "She's alive," Sumin said, her voice shaking. "But her jaw is broken. Internal bleeding. I need medical now." While she worked, her free hand touched a device on her wrist. She entered a code that hadn't been used since humans arrived at this station. The message went out instantly on encrypted channels to every human within 5 star systems. Protocol Red Dawn. A child has been harmed. All humans respond. Station security tried to handle the situation by their standard rules. They filed a report. They noted that Hana had made contact first. They checked Thelvix's credentials and saw he had full diplomatic immunity as a Krill military commander. Case closed. Unfortunate accident. The security chief, a bird-like alien named Kextau, tried to explain this to Minho. The commander is protected by galactic law. These things happen in crowded spaces. We will fine him for excessive force. But you're saying nothing will happen to him? Minho asked. His voice was still that same, terrible calm. Our hands are tied by diplomatic protocols. I'm sorry about your daughter, but you're not sorry enough, Minho said. He looked at Sumin, who was cradling their unconscious daughter. Send a message to everyone. Tell them what happened here today. Within an hour, every human on Zenith Station knew what had happened. Within 6 hours, humans in neighboring systems knew. Within a day, the message had spread to every human settlement within reach, and the humans began to move. They left their jobs. They left their posts. They canceled contracts worth millions of credits. Ship after ship began plotting courses to Zenith Station. The aliens noticed the change immediately. The humans who remained on the station became quiet. They stopped their usual friendly chatter. They stopped smiling. They moved through the corridors with purpose, gathering in small groups, speaking in low voices. In the human section of the station, someone began building something. The sound of construction echoed day and night. When aliens asked what they were making, the humans simply said, "A tribute. We're building a tribute." The galaxy would soon learn what that meant, and they would never forget. Ambassador Velric sat in the Galactic Council chamber and tried to calm the nervous representatives around him. The reptilian diplomat had dealt with hundreds of incidents during his long career. This one seemed simple enough. A child was hurt. There would be compensation. Perhaps some new safety rules. Nothing worth this emergency session. The humans will accept standard payment, Velric said confidently. I've dealt with them before. They're reasonable creatures. Council member Threx, whose species valued laws above all else, nodded in agreement. The Krill commander has full immunity. This is settled law. The humans must understand we cannot change rules for one incident. Have you seen their response? Asked Council member Yira. She was from a peaceful species that rarely experienced violence. They're gathering. Hundreds of them. My analysts say every human within 5 systems has changed course toward Zenith Station. Let them gather, Velric said. They probably want to show support for the family. It's emotional but harmless. What Velric didn't understand was that humans didn't gather to show support. Humans gathered to prepare. Captain Johann received the message while his ship was hauling ore to a mining colony. The message was short and simple. A child named Hannah had been attacked. She was in critical condition. The attacker was protected by diplomatic law. YOHAN. Read the message 3 times. His crew watched him carefully. They saw his jaw tighten. They saw his hands grip the edge of his console until his knuckles turned white. Change course, Johann said quietly. Set navigation for Zenith Station. Best speed? Captain, we'll lose the contract, his first officer said. They'll fine us for breaking agreement. I don't care. It's a 3-week delivery delay. The company will. They hurt a child, Johann said, his voice cutting through the objections. They hurt one of our children. The contract doesn't matter. The fines don't matter. Nothing matters except getting to Zenith Station. His crew didn't argue further. They understood. Every human understood. When the message said Protocol Red Dawn, it meant something fundamental had been violated. It meant the line had been crossed. It meant humans needed to gather and respond. Engineer Jiho abandoned a job worth 500,000 credits. He simply walked away from the alien corporation that had hired him, got on the next transport, and headed toward Zenith Station. When his employer complained, he sent back a single message. A child was harmed. I'm needed elsewhere. Dr. Yunbi left her research station in the middle of an important experiment. She was studying alien plant life and was weeks away from a major breakthrough. None of it mattered now. She packed a small bag, locked her lab, and caught a ride with a passing human freighter. Every ship that passed carried more humans toward the station. They came from military posts, from mining operations, from research outposts, from trading vessels. Some traveled alone. Others came in groups. But they all came. The aliens on Zenith Station watched this with growing confusion and then concern. The human population on the station had been around 50 people. Within 3 days, there were over 300. More arrived every hour. Station Commander Pilkstar called a meeting with the human leaders. The bird-like alien ruffled his feathers nervously. What are you planning? This gathering is causing problems. Other species are worried. Minho stood with several other humans. His face showed no emotion. He hadn't slept since the attack. He'd barely left his daughter's side in the medical center. But he'd come to this meeting because it was necessary. We're planning a tribute, Minho said. A tribute to what? To our dead. To our wounded. To our children. Pilkstar didn't understand. But your daughter is alive. Our doctors say she will recover, though the injuries are severe. Yes, Minho said. She lived. But we want everyone to understand what could have happened. We want everyone to understand what it means to hurt a human child. I don't understand what. You will, Minho said. Soon everyone will understand. The humans had rented out the largest cargo bay on the station. They paid triple the normal rate to get it immediately. Inside the bay, they worked day and night. The sound of construction never stopped. Aliens tried to peek inside, but humans guarded the entrance. No one was allowed to see what they were building. Dong Yun, a former military man, organized the work. He'd served in Earth Defense Corps for 15 years. He'd seen combat. He'd lost friends. He knew exactly what message they needed to send. The wall needs to be bigger, he said, looking at the plans. I want it to fill their entire vision. I want them to see nothing else when they look at it. That will take more materials, someone said. Then get more materials. Money doesn't matter. This needs to be perfect. They worked with synthetic bone, metal frames, and holographic projectors. They painted and carved and programmed. Each person who arrived added something to the tribute. Some brought photos. Some brought data files. Some brought stories. Medical officer Nari spent her time between the construction bay and the medical center. She checked on Hana every few hours. The little girl was stable, but still unconscious. The damage to her jaw was severe. She would need multiple surgeries. The psychological trauma would take years to heal. Will she be okay? Sumin asked every time Nari visited. Her body will heal, Nari said gently. But she'll carry this with her forever. A child shouldn't have to carry this. That was why they were building the tribute, so everyone would understand the weight of that burden. Ambassador Velric finally sent a message to the human leaders on day 4. He requested a meeting to discuss compensation for Hannah's family. He suggested 100,000 credits and public apology from the Krill government. Johan, who had arrived the day before, read the message to the gathered humans. There were now 400 humans on the station. The number kept growing. They offer money, Johan said. They offer words. They think this is about compensation. What do we tell them? Someone asked. We tell them nothing, Johan said. Not yet. Let them wonder. Let them worry. When we're ready, we'll show them what this is really about. On the 5th day, Hana woke up. Her parents were there, holding her hands. She couldn't speak because of the damage to her jaw, but her eyes were filled with fear and confusion. Sumin held her daughter and cried. Minho sat beside them, his hand on Hana's small shoulder. You're safe now, he told his daughter. We're all here. Every human in this sector is here for you. Hannah couldn't understand the full meaning of those words. She was just a child who had been hurt for no reason. She wanted her parents. She wanted the pain to stop. She wanted to forget the terrible insect face that had struck her, but the galaxy would not forget. The humans would make sure of that. The construction in the cargo bay reached completion on the 6th day. The humans gathered inside to see the finished tribute. When they looked at it, many of them cried. Some stood in silence. Others nodded grimly. This was exactly what needed to be shown. When do we reveal it? Someone asked. Tomorrow, Dong-Yun said. We move it to the main plaza tomorrow. We invite every alien on this station. We invite the media. We make sure the whole galaxy sees what we've built. And then, Johan said, stepping forward, we make our demands. We show them who we are. We show them what happens when you hurt our children. The next morning, human workers began moving something massive through the station corridors. It was covered in black cloth. Aliens gathered to watch the strange procession. The humans moved in complete silence. Their faces were blank. Their movements were coordinated and precise. They set up the covered structure in the main plaza, the largest public space on Zenith Station. Thousands of aliens could fit there. The humans sent out a message to everyone on the station. Come to the plaza at noon. Witness our tribute. Understand who we are. Station security didn't know what to do. Pilkstar contacted Ambassador Velric. Should we stop this? Stop what? They're just displaying some kind of memorial. Let them grieve in their own way. But this was not grief. This was something else entirely. This was a warning written in the bones of history. The plaza filled with aliens from dozens of species. They came out of curiosity, boredom, or concern. News crews set up their equipment. Galactic media wanted to see what the humans had built. Everyone expected some kind of emotional display. Maybe a statue of the injured child or a peace monument. What they got instead would haunt their nightmares for years. At exactly noon, Captain Johann stood before the covered structure. 400 humans stood behind him in perfect silence. The aliens in the crowd noticed how still the humans were. No fidgeting, no talking, just waiting. Johann's voice carried across the plaza through speakers. "We are humans from Earth. We come from a world your scientists call a Class 9 death world. Most of you don't really understand what that means. Today, we will help you understand." He gestured to the covered structure. "This is our tribute. This is our message. This is our warning." The black cloth fell away. The gasps and screams from the alien crowd happened almost instantly. Several aliens fainted. Others backed away in horror. The news cameras kept recording, sending the image across the galaxy in real time. The wall stretched 15 meters high and 30 meters wide. Every centimeter was covered with skulls. Thousands upon thousands of human skulls, each one rendered in perfect holographic detail. They weren't cartoon images or simple symbols. They were exact replicas of real skulls, showing every crack, every bullet hole, every sign of violent death. The wall was organized in sections. Each section represented a different way humans had died throughout their history. War dead, murder victims, accident casualties, disease victims, natural disasters, starvation. Each skull had a name, a date, and a brief cause of death floating beside it in multiple languages. Kenji Watanabe, 1945 atomic bomb. Hyunsik Park, 2089 mining accident. Bora Kim, 2156 murdered defending her home. Daeho Choi, 2201 killed in the First Contact War. The list went on and on. The sheer number was overwhelming. The detail was terrifying. But what made it truly horrifying was the realization that this represented only a tiny fraction of human deaths. A placard at the bottom read, "These skulls represent 1% of violent human deaths in the past 100 years alone." At the center of the wall, in a place of honor, was an empty space outlined in bright red. Inside that space was a medical photo of Hana, taken after the attack. Her small face was swollen and bloody. Beneath the photo were the words, "She lived. You will answer." Ambassador Velric stared at the wall with his mouth open. He'd never seen anything like this in his 300 years of diplomatic service. The other council members who had come to observe looked equally shocked. Johann began to speak again. His voice was calm but firm. "You see before you the faces of death. We humans know death intimately. It has walked beside us for 200,000 years. On our world, everything wants to kill you. The animals, the weather, the diseases, even the plants." He gestured to different sections of the wall. "We died to predators that hunted us in the dark. We died to invisible germs that we couldn't see or fight. We died to each other in wars over resources, beliefs, and territory. We died building shelters, finding food, exploring new places. Death was our constant companion. But we survived," Johann continued. "We survived by being smarter, tougher, and more stubborn than anything else on our planet. We survived by protecting our children above all else. Because a species that doesn't protect its young doesn't survive. It's that simple." Dr. Yunbi stepped forward with a data pad. She was the scientist, the one who could explain this in terms the aliens might understand. "I've studied your species," she said. "Most of you come from worlds where violence is rare, where predators were few or easily avoided, where your evolution was relatively peaceful." She pulled up statistics on a large holographic display. The average Vrelian experiences violence once in their lifetime, if ever. The average Quelix sees perhaps 3 violent deaths in their entire community per century. The Thindari have had 0 murders in 50 years. The numbers appeared beside each species' name. The aliens in the crowd murmured, recognizing the truth of these statistics. Now look at humans, Yunbi said. The display changed. In the year 2300 alone, despite all our advances, despite living in a peaceful era by our standards, Earth experienced 89,000 violent deaths. Accidents, crimes, conflicts, disasters. And that's during peacetime in our most civilized period. We don't share this to frighten you, Yunbi continued. We share this so you understand our context. Violence isn't foreign to us. Death isn't shocking to us. We're born with the knowledge that life is fragile and precious. That's why we protect it so fiercely. Johann took over again. 8 days ago, a Krill officer named Commander Thelvix struck a human child. Her name is Hana. She is 8 years old. She was doing nothing wrong. She accidentally bumped into him and apologized immediately. He hit her hard enough to break her jaw and cause internal bleeding. She could have died. The medical photo of Hana appeared on screens throughout the plaza. Her small, broken face. Her closed eyes. The blood. Your station security called it an accident, Johann said. His voice got harder. They said he has diplomatic immunity. They said nothing can be done. They offered us money and empty apologies. They don't understand that you cannot buy your way out of hurting our children, Johann said. No amount of money, no apology, no diplomatic protocol matters when a child is harmed. He pointed to the wall of skulls. We built this tribute to show you who we are. We are the descendants of survivors. We carry the memory of millions who died protecting their families, their homes, their children. That instinct doesn't go away just because we reach the stars. We are not asking for war, Johann said clearly. We are not threatening violence. We are simply telling you the truth. If you harm our children, you will face consequences. If your laws protect those who hurt children, then we reject those laws. The ultimatum came next. We demand that Commander Thelvix be surrendered to human custody. He will face trial under human law for assault on a minor. If the Galactic Council refuses, we will enact Protocol Genesis. Murmurs spread through the alien crowd. Few knew what Protocol Genesis meant. Protocol Genesis is simple, Johann explained. Every human leaves galactic civilization. We close our borders. We cease all trade. We take our technology and return to our own systems. You will not see us again for generations. We will develop in isolation, and when we return, we will be stronger. He paused, letting that sink in. And if anyone tries to force us to stay, if anyone threatens human settlements during our withdrawal, then you will discover what we are capable of when we choose violence instead of peace. The threat was clear. The galaxy had seen human military capabilities during the First Contact War, decades ago. Humans were frighteningly good at warfare. Even peaceful humans had instincts that made them dangerous when threatened. Dong Yun stepped forward and added one more detail. We've also sent a message to every human military vessel in known space. If we die here, if the Krill attack us, if this becomes violence, then those ships have standing orders. They know what to do. No one said exactly what those orders were. That uncertainty was part of the message. The news crews broadcast everything. Within hours, every civilized world in the galaxy had seen the Wall of Skulls. They'd heard Johann's speech. They'd seen Hana's broken face. The reactions varied. Some species were horrified by the display, calling it barbaric and disturbing. Others were sympathetic, understanding the message even if the method seemed extreme. The Krill government issued a statement, calling humans primitive and refusing to surrender their commander. But underneath all the political responses, there was a new feeling spreading through the galaxy. Fear. Not fear of human violence, but fear of human determination. These creatures from the Death World weren't bluffing. They meant every word. In her medical room, Hannah slept peacefully, unaware that her image was being shown across 1,000 worlds. Unaware that her name was becoming a symbol. Unaware that humans everywhere were gathering to protect her, to avenge her, to make sure nothing like this ever happened again. Minho and Sumin sat beside their daughter's bed. They'd seen the tribute. They'd heard the demands. Now they just held their child's hand and waited to see what would happen next. Outside, the wall of skulls remained standing in the plaza. Station security didn't dare touch it. The humans guarded it constantly. Aliens walked past it, staring at the thousands of dead faces, trying to comprehend what it meant to be a species that lived so close to death. The galaxy had 3 days to respond to the human demands. 3 days before Protocol Genesis would begin. 3 days before everything changed. The countdown had started. The Galactic Council met in emergency session for the second time that week. The chamber was filled with representatives from 40 different species, all arguing at once. Some wanted to give the humans what they demanded. Others refused to set a precedent of surrendering diplomatic personnel. The debate went in circles. Ambassador Velric tried to find a compromise. Perhaps we can offer the humans a larger settlement. Additional medical care for the child. A formal apology from the Krill government. The humans have rejected all offers of compensation, Council Member Threx pointed out. They want the officer himself. That violates every diplomatic protection we've established. Then we have a choice, said Council Member Yura. Do we value our diplomatic protocols more than we value our relationship with humanity? Before anyone could answer, news arrived that made the situation much worse. 3 Krill warships had entered the system and were approaching Zenith Station. Station Commander Pilkstar received the message with growing dread. This is Admiral Krixtel of the Krill Imperial Navy. We are here to extract Commander Thelvix and ensure the safety of Krill citizens. The humans will stand down immediately or face consequences. Pilkstar rushed to the plaza where the humans maintained their vigil around the skull tribute. Captain Johann stood with Dong Yun and several other human leaders. Your ships, Pilkstar said urgently. The Krill have brought warships. You must evacuate. This is about to become very dangerous. We're not leaving, Johann said calmly. You don't understand. Those are military vessels. They can level this entire station if they choose. Please, for your own safety. We understand perfectly, Dong Yun interrupted. We've been expecting this. The Krill think they can intimidate us with their military. They're wrong. Within the hour, the Krill warships took up positions around Zenith Station. They were impressive vessels, heavily armed and shielded. Admiral Krixtel broadcast a message to the entire station. Humans, you have 1 hour to disperse. Remove your offensive display. Allow my officer to depart freely. If you refuse, we will use force to extract him. This is your only warning. The humans didn't respond. They simply stood their ground around the tribute. 400 humans against 3 warships. It should have been no contest. But something about the humans' stillness, their absolute certainty, made the situation feel less simple than it appeared. Ambassador Velric tried to negotiate with both sides. He spoke to Admiral Krixtel first. Please, give us more time. We can resolve this peacefully. There is nothing to resolve, the Admiral replied coldly. My officer is protected by law. These humans are criminals who have threatened him. We will not abandon our own to satisfy primitive emotions. Then Velric spoke to the humans. Please reconsider. This is about to become violent. You cannot win against warships. Think of your families. Think of your child who was hurt. We are thinking of her, Johann said. We're thinking that if we back down now, if we accept that powerful people can hurt children without consequence, then every human child in this galaxy is in danger. No, we draw the line here. The hour deadline passed. The humans didn't move. Admiral Krixtell prepared to send troops to the station to forcibly remove the humans and extract Commander. Thelvix, that's when the long-range sensors detected something. New? Ships. Lots of ships. 40-7 human vessels emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of the system. They weren't military warships. The fleet consisted of converted colony ships, mining vessels, cargo freighters, and transport shuttles. But every single one had been modified with weapons. Improvised, jury-rigged, and often illegal weapons, but weapons nonetheless. The fleet began broadcasting on all channels. Not threats or demands. Instead, they sent music. Human music. Songs of war, songs of death, songs of mourning. Battle hymns from 100 different cultures. The sound was haunting and beautiful and absolutely terrifying. One ship broadcast something different. The steady beep, beep, beep of a medical monitor. Hannah's heartbeat transmitted from the medical center. That constant rhythm reminded everyone listening what this was really about. A child's life hanging in the balance. Admiral Krixtell studied the human fleet and calculated his odds. His 3 warships were more powerful than any individual human vessel. But 47 against 3 was not good math, especially when the 47 were crewed by desperate people with nothing to lose. They're bluffing, his tactical officer said. Those are civilian ships. They can't stand against us, can't they? The Admiral wondered aloud. He'd studied humans briefly before this assignment. They had a reputation for being unpredictable, dangerous when cornered. Run an analysis. If we engage, what are our casualties? The tactical computer ran the numbers. Even in a victory, the Krill warships would suffer significant damage. Crew casualties would be high. And if the humans were willing to ram their ships, as the data suggested they might, the situation became even worse. This is insane, the Admiral muttered. They're risking everything for one child. That was the part he couldn't understand. In Krill culture, the collective mattered more than any individual. Sacrifice was expected. But humans seemed to work differently. They would burn down everything to protect even one of their young. On Zenith Station, Engineer Jiho stood with the other humans around the tribute. He'd been watching the news feeds, seeing the Krill warships, hearing the threats. He knew the situation was about to explode. Are we really going to die here? A young human woman asked nervously. Her name was Laya, and she'd been working as a teacher on a colony ship before answering the call. Maybe, Jiho said honestly. But if we do, we'll make sure the galaxy never forgets why. We'll make sure no one ever thinks they can hurt a human child without consequences. I'm scared, Laya admitted. So am I, Jiho said. But I'm also angry. And I'm also sure that what we're doing is right. Dr. Yunbi had been preparing for this moment. She'd compiled all her research on human psychology and sent it to every major news organization in the galaxy. Now she released it publicly. The document explained human protective instincts in scientific terms. It showed brain scans of humans responding to threats against children. It detailed the hormonal responses, the evolutionary pressures, the cultural universals that made humans so fiercely defensive of their young. When a human sees a child in danger, Yunbi's report explained, their brain chemistry changes dramatically. Fear responses decrease. Pain tolerance increases. Risk assessment becomes altered. This isn't a conscious choice. It's an automatic biological response developed over millions of years. The report included historical examples. Humans who lifted vehicles off trapped children. parents who fought off predators barehanded to save their young, soldiers who threw themselves on grenades to protect others. Stories of sacrifice that seemed impossible until you understood the biology behind them. You're not negotiating with human logic, Yunbi's report concluded. You're facing human instinct. And instinct doesn't compromise. While this information spread through the galaxy, another development was happening in secret. Taiyan, a human strategist who'd arrived 2 days earlier, was sending encrypted messages to contacts throughout Krill Space. He was a former intelligence officer who still maintained connections in shadowy places. He'd spent the past 48 hours coordinating a contingency plan. Now he was ready to reveal it. Taiyan contacted Admiral Crixtel directly on a secure channel. Admiral, I think you should know about some interesting ship movements near your colonies. He sent over data showing automated mining drones near krill mining operations, cargo vessels with faulty navigation systems drifting toward populated stations, small craft positioned near vital infrastructure, all with suspiciously full fuel tanks and minimal crew. These are human vessels, Taiyang explained calmly. They've been positioning themselves for the past week. If violence starts here, if humans die on Zenith Station, those ships have standing orders. They won't attack military targets, Admiral. That would be an act of war. Instead, they'll simply suffer unfortunate accidents near your civilian locations. You're threatening terrorism, the Admiral said, his voice shaking with rage. No, Taiyang corrected. I'm explaining the cost of this conflict. You want to protect your officer who hurt a child. We want justice for that child. The difference is, we're willing to accept costs you're not. The Admiral ended the call, but he understood the message. If this turned into a military conflict, the Krill military might win the battle at Zenith Station. But Krill civilians throughout the galaxy would pay a terrible price. The humans had made sure of that. Back in the council chamber, the debate reached a breaking point. Council member Yura stood and addressed everyone. We keep talking about law and precedent and protocols. But maybe we should ask a simpler question. What kind of galaxy do we want to live in? One where children can be struck without consequence? One where military might matters more than basic decency? Or one where we acknowledge that some things are more important than diplomatic convenience? The chamber fell silent. The humans aren't asking for much, Yura continued. They want one officer to face justice for one violent act. Is that really too much? Are we really going to risk war over this? The vote was called. It took 6 hours of intense debate and political maneuvering, but finally the council reached a decision by a narrow margin. The message went out to all parties. Commander Thelvik's diplomatic immunity was revoked under the Sovereign Violation Protocol, a rarely used law that allowed the council to override immunity in cases of extreme misconduct. The Krill government was given a choice: surrender the officer for trial, or face sanctions from 40 allied species. Admiral Crixtel received his orders from the Krill homeworld. The government was furious, calling it a betrayal and an insult. But they were also practical. They couldn't afford sanctions and isolation. They couldn't risk a broader conflict. The Admiral's voice was bitter when he broadcast his next message. The Krill Imperium protests this decision, but we will comply. Commander Thelvix will be transferred to human custody for trial. In the medical center, Minho heard the news and finally allowed himself to cry. Not tears of joy, but tears of exhaustion and relief and lingering anger. Justice wasn't complete yet, but it was coming. The standoff was over. But everyone knew the galaxy had changed. Commander Thelvix stood in chains for the first time in his life. The Krill officer who had struck a child with such casual violence now found himself transferred to human custody. His compound eyes darted around nervously as human guards escorted him through Zenith Station's corridors. Everywhere he looked, he saw the faces of his captors. Cold, determined, unforgiving, the humans had chosen to hold the trial publicly. On Zenith Station, rather than transport Thelvix to Earth, they wanted the galaxy to witness everything. News crews from dozens of worlds set up their equipment in the large conference hall that had been converted into a courtroom. Captain Johann served as the lead prosecutor. He stood before the assembled witnesses and cameras, his voice steady and clear. "We are here to determine if Commander Thelvix is guilty of assault on a minor, specifically on 8-year-old Hannah. The evidence is clear. Multiple witnesses saw the attack. Station security cameras recorded it. The medical records document her injuries. The trial lasted 3 days. Witnesses testified about what they'd seen. Medical experts explained the extent of Hannah's injuries. The broken jaw would heal, but might cause problems for years. The psychological trauma was harder to measure, but no less real. A child who had been friendly and outgoing now flinched at sudden movements and had nightmares every night. Thelvix, defense lawyer, a human named Gassim, who believed everyone deserved representation, argued that cultural differences should be considered. In Krill society, physical discipline was normal. The commander hadn't understood that humans viewed children differently. Johann's response was simple and devastating. Cultural misunderstanding doesn't excuse violence. If I visit another species' world and don't understand their customs, I don't get to hurt their children and claim ignorance. We all share one universal law. Don't harm the young. Every species protects their children. Commander Thelvix knew he was hurting her. He chose to do it anyway. The jury was composed of 6 humans and 6 aliens from neutral species. They deliberated for 8 hours before reaching a verdict. The jury foreman, a human woman named Haijin, stood to read the decision. "We find Commander Thelvix guilty of assault on a minor and violation of sentient rights." The Krill officer's mandibles clicked together in agitation, but he remained silent. He'd been warned that any outburst would result in additional charges. The sentencing came next. Judge Taiwan, a retired human military officer with gray hair and tired eyes, looked down at Thelvix with something close to disgust. "You struck a child for no reason except your own pride and prejudice. You used your strength against someone who couldn't defend herself. In doing so, you violated not just our laws, but basic decency. The sentence is 20 years imprisonment in a human correctional facility. You will also pay full restitution to Hannah's family for medical costs and emotional suffering. Additionally, you will be required to undergo counseling to understand the severity of your actions." 20 years was a harsh sentence by galactic standards, but light by human standards for such a crime. The judge explained this was because they were trying to balance justice with diplomatic concerns. Many humans in the courtroom looked disappointed, wanting a longer sentence. But they accepted it. The Krill government issued angry statements calling the trial a mockery and the sentence excessive. But they didn't take action beyond words. The damage to their reputation was already done. Many species who had respected Krill military might now viewed them with suspicion. Hannah attended the trial's final day with her parents. She still couldn't speak well because of her healing jaw, but she was there. She saw the alien who had hurt her in chains. She saw him led away to prison. She didn't feel happy or satisfied, just tired and sad that any of this had happened at all. After the trial ended, Minho carried his daughter through the plaza where the skull tribute still stood. Other humans were already there, standing quietly before the wall. Hannah looked up at the thousands of skulls, not really understanding what they meant. "What is this?" she asked, her words slurred but understandable. "It's a memorial," Sumin explained gently. "It's for people who died, but it's also a promise. We built it to show everyone that humans protect each other, especially our children." Minho carefully lifted Han up to see the space at the center of the wall, the space that had been marked for her. Someone had changed the inscription. Where it once said, "She lived," you will answer. It now read, "She lived. She will thrive." You answered. Fresh flowers had been placed there. Hundreds of them, from humans and aliens alike. Messages of support written in dozens of languages. Hannah touched one of the flowers with her small hand. "Can we go home now?" she asked. "Soon," Minho promised. "Very soon." But the skull tribute didn't come down. The humans asked Station Commander Pilkstar for permission to make it permanent. After discussion with the Galactic Council, permission was granted. The wall became an official memorial and museum. Aliens visited in the weeks and months that followed. They walked slowly past the endless skulls, reading the names and dates and causes of death. They tried to comprehend what it meant to be a species that had lost so many to violence, yet still continued. Educational programs were developed. Dr. Yunbi gave lectures about human psychology and evolution. She explained to curious aliens why humans reacted so strongly to threats against children, why they were willing to risk everything for one injured girl. "We're not special," Yunbi told a group of alien students. "Every species has instincts. Ours just developed under harsher conditions. Earth was difficult, so we became difficult too. We learned to survive by being tough and by being together." The incident led to real changes in galactic law. The Council passed the Hana Protocols, a set of regulations specifically protecting minors of all species from violence. Diplomatic immunity could now be revoked if the victim was a child. Security forces were required to respond to any incident involving young beings, regardless of who was involved. Several species reached out to humanity with offers of new trade agreements and defense pacts. They'd seen how humans responded to threats and wanted that same fierce loyalty on their side. Earth's economy grew. Human influence in galactic politics increased. The Krill Imperium, by contrast, found themselves increasingly isolated. Many species who had once traded with them now sought alternatives. Their reputation as bullies and their refusal to properly apologize for Thelvik's actions cost them dearly. Captain Johann returned to his ship and his cargo runs, but he was different now. He'd been just another merchant before this, trying to make a living in space. Now he was known across the galaxy as the human who stood before the Krill warships and didn't blink. Young humans asked him for advice. Alien diplomats sought his opinion on human reactions to various policies. Engineer Jiho never got to finish the $500,000 credit contract he'd abandoned. But he didn't regret it. He'd been there when it mattered. He'd stood with other humans and helped protect a child he'd never met. That meant more than money. Dong-Yoon, the former soldier who had organized the building of the tribute, stayed on Zenith Station. He became the curator of the Memorial Museum. He gave tours to visitors, explaining human history and culture. He made sure people understood the wall wasn't about glorifying violence, but about remembering the cost of it. Dr. Yunbi continued her research, but now with a focus on cross-species psychology. She worked to help aliens understand humans better, and vice versa. Her goal was to prevent future incidents through education and understanding. The human fleet that had arrived to support the standoff dispersed back to their various duties. But they maintained communication networks now. They'd created a rapid response system. If another protocol Red Dawn was ever triggered, they could gather even faster next time. Taiyang, the strategist who had positioned ships near Krill space, quietly removed all those assets. The threat had been real, but he'd hoped never to use it. He went back to his work, but he kept his networks active, just in case. 10 years passed. Hannah grew from a frightened 8-year-old into a determined young woman of 18. The scars on her face had faded, but never completely disappeared. She could have gotten cosmetic surgery to remove them. She chose not to. They were part of her story. She joined the Earth Defense Corps, not as a soldier, but as a diplomat. She wanted to help build bridges between species. She wanted to make sure what happened to her never happened to anyone else, human or alien. On the anniversary of the incident, Hannah returned to Zenith Station. Thousands of people were there for the memorial ceremony. It had become an annual event, a day to remember not just what happened to one girl, but what it meant for the galaxy. Hannah stood before the skull tribute with a group of new human recruits. They looked up at the massive wall with appropriate awe and solemnity. Some of them had been children when the incident happened. They'd grown up hearing the story. Now they were here to serve. This wall, Hannah told them, her voice strong and clear now, is not a celebration of death or violence. It's a reminder of why we choose peace. Every skull here represents someone who died, someone who was loved and missed, someone whose loss made the world darker. She gestured to the center space, to her own image as a child, now faded but still visible. I survived because humans everywhere decided I mattered. Not because I was special, but because I was one of their children. And humans protect their children. When you go out into the galaxy, Hannah continued, remember what this wall teaches. We're strong because we survived hard times. We're dangerous because we learned to fight. But we're good because we choose to be. We have the capacity for terrible violence, but we use that capacity to protect, not to harm. The galaxy learned that lesson 10 years ago, she said. They learned that humans will go to extreme lengths for justice, that we don't back down from threats, that we remember our dead and honor our wounded. She placed fresh flowers at the base of the tribute, as she did every year. But they also learned that we can show mercy. We could have chosen war. We chose law. We could have chosen revenge. We chose justice. That's what makes us human. Not our capacity for violence, but our choice to be better than our violent past. The recruits stood in silence, absorbing her words. Then they each placed their own flowers at the memorial. Red flowers for the dead, white flowers for peace, blue flowers for hope. Across the galaxy, the story of Hannah and the skull tribute had become legendary. Children of all species learned about it in school. Diplomats studied it as a case study in crisis resolution. Military academies analyzed the standoff as an example of psychological warfare. But for the humans who had been there, who had stood in that plaza and faced down warships, it remained personal. It was about a little girl who got hurt, about parents who demanded justice, about a community that answered the call, about doing what was right even when it was difficult. The memorial wall stood as a permanent reminder. Not a threat, though many aliens still found it intimidating, but a statement of fact. This is who we are. This is where we come from. This is what we value. Understand us, respect us, and we will be the best friends you could ask for. But harm our children, and you will face the full weight of human determination. Not cruelty, not mindless violence, but cold, calculated justice delivered by a species that learned long ago how to survive against impossible odds. The galaxy understood now. Humans were Deathworlders, but they were also something more. They were protectors. They were builders. They were the species who looked at their violent past and chose to create a better future. And that, in the end, was the most important lesson of all.